Most people think intelligence reveals itself in grand gestures or brilliant answers. But psychology says it hides in the quiet rhythm of your days, in the habits you repeat without thought, in the moments you choose distraction over reflection. Your mind changes not through sudden collapse, but through slow erosion. Each shortcut, each neglected rest, reshapes how you think. Awareness fades and autopilot takes over. You begin to confuse movement with progress, noise with clarity. True intelligence is not louder, it is more awake. It pauses before reacting. It questions what feels certain. It protects stillness because stillness protects it. If you can stay with this thought, if you can listen beyond the surface, you might see the small patterns that have been shaping your mind all along. Stay until the end, and you may notice which of them are quietly dimming your light. 1. The illusion of control, magical thinking, and false correlation. You like to believe there is meaning in every coincidence. A lucky shirt, a color that brings success, a ritual that seems to make things go your way. It gives comfort, a sense that life can be predicted. Yet psychology calls this magical thinking. The mind connects dots that do not exist, mistaking pattern for proof. It is not intelligence that speaks in those moments, but the fear of uncertainty. The smarter part of your brain asks for evidence, not comfort. True clarity begins when you stop worshiping chance and start observing cause. Luck does not shape your life. Your awareness does. 2. The myth of endless energy, sleep neglect, and ego exhaustion. You convince yourself you can run on less rest. You tell people you function fine on 4 hours, proud of the struggle. But the mind is not a machine. Each night without recovery dulls memory, focus, and emotion. Sleep is not laziness. It is repair. When you ignore it, you do not gain time. You lose quality of thought. Intelligent people respect fatigue because they know what it costs. Sleep is where the brain files meaning, where learning settles into wisdom. Without it, your clarity fades and your strength turns hollow. 3. Escaping silence, fear of solitude and inner reflection. You reach for sound when silence arrives. The television hums, music fills the air, conversation never stops. Yet what you fear is not quiet, it is yourself. Solitude is the mirror of the mind, and most people do not like what it reflects. Psychology calls it metacognitive avoidance, the habit of fleeing your own thoughts. But thinking deeply requires space. Without silence, you lose contact with intuition. Intelligent minds use solitude to process pain and discover insight. When you can sit with yourself without panic, you begin to think rather than react. 4. Small talk and the fear of depth. You know how to talk about the weather, the traffic, the day. It feels safe to stay on the surface. But safety often hides fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of revealing thought. When all your words avoid depth, curiosity withers. Psychologists call this low need for cognition, the disinterest in mental challenge. Intelligence thrives in dialogue that stretches comfort. The next time you speak, listen for meaning, not noise. Ask what matters, not what fills time. Depth begins when you let silence exist between words and wait for something real to emerge. 5. Overconfidence and the Dunning-Krueger mirage. You want to sound certain. You explain, interrupt, dominate, convince that authority equals truth. Yet confidence without understanding is a mask. The Dunning-Krueger effect shows that the less people know, the more they think they do. Real intelligence feels quieter because it recognizes its limits. To admit uncertainty is not weakness. It is awareness. The phrase "I don't know" is the beginning of knowledge. Humility opens doors, arrogance never finds. When you learn to question your own voice, your thinking becomes clearer, your mind more alive. 6. Obedience without awareness. Blind following of rules. You trust instruction more than intuition. You follow rules even when they stop making sense. It feels easier to obey than to think. But intelligence is not submission. It is flexibility. The brain grows stronger when it evaluates, not imitates. Psychology calls it authority bias, the tendency to mistake command for truth. Smart people question procedures when reality changes. They adapt without losing respect. When you follow blindly, you silence your critical mind. Thinking for yourself is not rebellion. It is responsibility. 7. The lure of conspiracies. Comfort in simple lies. You crave stories that explain everything. Secret powers, hidden plans, worlds run by villains. They feel thrilling because they make chaos feel organized. Yet the comfort is false. The human brain seeks closure even when facts are missing. Conspiracy thinking is not awareness. It is emotional relief. Intelligent minds tolerate uncertainty. They verify, analyze, and ask what evidence remains when excitement fades. Truth does not need drama to be meaningful. It only needs patience to be understood. 8. The rigid mind. Fear of change as fear of self-loss. You tell yourself this is how things have always been. You resist what feels new because it threatens what feels safe. Change challenges identity. But intelligence lives in adaptation. Psychology calls rigidity a defense against loss, not logic. Every refusal to change is a small surrender to fear. Growth asks you to let go of the version of yourself that no longer fits. To stay flexible is not to betray who you are, but to allow your mind to evolve. The mind that resists learning eventually resists living. 9. Instant gratification. The psychology of shortcuts. You reach for what feels good now. The scroll, the snack, the distraction. It feels harmless until patience disappears. The brain learns through reward, and constant reward trains it to avoid effort. Psychologists call it delay discounting, the habit of trading future gain for present ease. Intelligence thrives on the opposite. The willingness to wait, to work, to delay pleasure for purpose. Each time you resist the easy option, you build cognitive endurance. Discipline is not punishment. It is freedom from impulse. 10. Listening versus hearing, the lost art of absorption. You think you listen, but you are only waiting to respond. You nod, interrupt, drift. Real listening demands presence. It requires empathy, curiosity, and humility. Psychology calls it active listening, the ability to process and integrate what others say. Poor listeners are trapped in their own noise. Intelligent minds stay open long enough to be changed by another perspective. To listen is to learn how to think again. The quiet you keep while someone speaks is not emptiness. It is the space where understanding grows. 11. The empty identity, trend chasing, and digital mimicry. You shape yourself around what others approve. A style, a phrase, a belief that changes with each season. It feels like belonging, but it drains authenticity. The mind confuses imitation with connection. Psychology calls it social conformity, the instinct to copy for acceptance. Intelligence questions that impulse. It asks whether the identity you wear is truly yours. To think independently is to risk disapproval, yet that risk is the price of being real. Every borrowed opinion weakens your voice until it becomes silent inside your own life. 12. The loop of stagnation. Repetition without reflection. You repeat the same actions and call it experience. You go through days without asking what they mean. But repetition without awareness is stasis. The mind stops learning when it stops observing itself. Reflection, psychologists say, is metacognition in motion. It transforms error into progress. Without it, time passes but growth freezes. Intelligent people pause to ask what worked, what failed, what must change. Reflection gives shape to memory. It turns movement into evolution. To think is to review. To grow is to remember differently. You are not defined by your habits, but by your awareness of them. Every time you notice a pattern and choose differently, you reclaim a part of your mind. Growth is not loud or sudden. It begins in the quiet decision to stop living on autopilot. You are not behind. You are awakening. The brain can be rewired. The heart can relearn calm. Intelligence is not about being perfect. It is about being present enough to see where you have been asleep. Let this moment remind you that clarity is built one mindful choice at a time. If this video helped you see a part of yourself more clearly, let it stay with you. Leave a like, subscribe, and keep returning to the work of awareness. Because every time you do, you teach your mind to think, to rest, and to rise again.